Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of My Friend Chuck. I'm Mike Richmond of the Oregonian Oregon Live. With me, as always, my friend Chuck, the Tank Commander, Charles Tuggle. How you doing, man?
I'm well. I'm sitting in my kitchen slash living room with my sunglasses on because I don't have all my blinds.
And so you're not that well because you don't have blinds.
I'm not doing that great, guys. I still need a blind on one of my windows.
Damn.
It's that Home Depot's real far away.
Please go to the GoFundMe / blinds for Chuck.
My Patreon page.
Hit him up on Patreon. He needs $22.84 to reach his goal. If you pledge, he'll send you a Nolan Smith rookie card.
I'm about to find one of those first.
I have one, if you need one.
Ooh. I've been meaning to improve my collection.
Nolan Smith, former Blazer great, who is currently at home as the coach for Duke, or the guy who drafted after him, Kenneth Faried, plays the Blazers tomorrow night. Whoops. Whoopsies.
The paths we take, Mike. The paths we take.
You know, a lot of people point to that, and this is like a weird aside to start things off with, but hey, it's my podcast, so take it or leave it. Please take it. Also, leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. Leave us.
I'm leaving it.
No, wait. Then it's not my friend Chuck.
Go.
Formerly my friend Chuck. You know, everyone wants to say that they should have drafted Kenneth Faried, but all roads from that, starting with the not drafting Kenneth Faried, led the Blazers to getting Damian Lillard. Because they got Nolan Smith, which means that they let go of Patty Mills, and then they kept Armand Johnson, and then they just had all these point guard woes, and they ended up trying to play Jamal Crawford at point guard, and that didn't work, and all those things led to them drafting Damian Lillard and the era that we're in now. So, you know, if they get Kenneth Faried, maybe the roads don't align the way that they did. Maybe they don't end up trading Gerald Wallace. So, Nolan Smith, what I'm trying to say is Nolan Smith was a blessing in disguise for Blazer fans.
Yeah, Nolan Smith is the beginning of the brightest possible timeline in which Dame Lillard is a Portland Trail Blazer legend.
You know,
he is.
He's been balling since the All-Star break.
Let's jump right into it and talk about Dame.
Dude, you're the fan here. I'm the reporter. Let's give me that fan hype over Damian Lillard.
I mean, pretty much since the All-Star break, Damian Lillard has been playing at what pretty much now looks like a consistent All-NBA level. You know, it's like this is this guy's level. You know, like where he is as a player right now is an All-NBA player. You know, forget the politics or the fraternal sort of associations of NBA All-Star selections. Like, this guy's an All-NBA player, and he's playing out of his mind right now. He really is. I think part of that, you know, is I think that ankle injury was maybe worse than people thought, or people think, or Dame let on, or the team let on, because I think he was really bothered by that for a little while. I think you saw some of his explosion dissipate a little bit, and especially that showed up in his sort of finishing around the rim and his ability to draw fouls around the rim. But now it looks like he's fully fit, and he's just taking over. He's always been a really aggressive player. You know, his very first game in the league, he dropped like 20-something points on the Lakers, you know?
Yeah, I think he had 22 and 11 on the Lakers.
Yeah, the very first game, you know, the guy was always an aggressive, sort of confident player, but he's playing at definitely peak level for him in his nascent career. And
he's carried the Blazers. They're 11-3 in March, 12-5 since the All-Star break. I think tied with the Spurs for best record in the NBA in March, and they beat the Spurs. Wow. They handed the Spurs one of their losses. So, I mean, they're balling, and it's been on the strength of Dame. And I think one of the interesting things, or interesting to me at least, is you don't always hear guys say this about, you know, he's been so good, blah, blah, blah. But Terry Stotts has gone out of his way to mention how well Dame has played during this stretch. Mo Harkless has said it. C.J. McCollum has said it unprompted. Myers Leonard, even though he's sort of a horn tooter, so to speak.
Don't reuse that phrase.
Yeah, I'll probably have to edit that out. No, but you know, guys have said, guys have sort of gone out of their way to say one of the reasons we're playing so well is because Dame has played so well. And you don't always hear that. You usually say, you know, we're in a groove. People are blah 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 blah. But they've been saying, you know, one of the reasons we're doing so well is because our best player is carrying us. And he's really been fantastic. I mean, I think he's right at the 30-point mark since the All-Star break. He's averaging like 35-5 in 15 or in 17 games since the break. He's flirting with 50, 40, 90. He's like 48, 42, 48, 42, 90. I mean, he's been really good, really efficient. And he's kind of had this 17 game stretch like you kind of thought he would play all year. And he started out red hot, as you recall, like absolutely red hot out of the gates, first 25 games. And then the injury, he was bad, and the Blazers were bad because of it.
Yeah. No, he looked awful. And largely he kind of played in a similar way to how he plays and approaches the game when he's fit. And when you're not like 100% fit like that, Dame's not a player that wholly relies on that athleticism and explosion. I mean, he's got a quick first step and he is explosive. That matters, but he's not just sort of a physically overpowering
he's
type
not
of player.
Derrick Rose, yeah.
So that his sort of play style remained the same while his body didn't seem to be able to sort of handle that load. That was troubling for the Blazers. And it showed for a long time.
Yeah, I think he just came back a little too early from that. I think he would have been better off taking another 5 or so games off. He missed 5 games with the ankle. He probably would have been better off missing 10. But, if he can kind of play, he's going to play. It's so, it's hard to convince a guy like, hey, you're in your team's in the playoff race, but you should just sit and watch. He's just not wired that way. He didn't miss a game for, first 3, almost 4 years of his career?
Yeah. Forever. He's a warrior. That's why the Blazers love him.
He's actually a Blazer, Charles.
Yeah, I shouldn't use that to describe him. He's a soldier. How about that?
I don't like that either.
Too militant.
Yeah, too militant. He's a very good basketball player. I don't think he's going to make All-NBA, though, just because I think the guard spots are crowded, and last year James Harden averaged 29, 7, and 6 and didn't make All-NBA because his team was the 8th seed, and I think Dame's going to end up in a similar spot.
Yeah, that could happen. He's surely deserving though.
I'm with you that he's back to being one of the best elite players in the game.
And to go back to your comment about his teammates and colleagues offering praise from, also in this stretch I've seen other players from other teams and coaches word him as well. Throw him out there, talk about how he forces teams to adjust their game plan and how much of a killer player he is. So his reputation is solid within the league, that's for sure. Everyone respects his game.
Yeah, I mean
his grind.
The Blazers have kind of been handling some bad teams recently, but he's been he carried them. The 49-point game against the Heat was as impressive and dominant an individual performance as you're going to see. He just took it to him. He torched Hassan Whiteside in pick and rolls for 35 minutes.
Yeah, he was amazing that game, and he's been starting very, very aggressively in games, which is only a good thing for the Blazers, that they get off to a hot start, because there's been so many poor first half performances by the Blazers this year.
Yeah, he actually has said that that's intentional, that he thinks that he needs to set the tone early, because there were times earlier in his career when he would kind of work his way into games, like set the table early to try to get everybody else going, make sure Mo got shots, make sure CJ got shots, Noah, Mason Plumlee or Yusuf Nurkic, depending on what time of the year it was, probably Plumlee when he was doing that. But he realized that they were just, they were coming out flat, or they weren't taking control of games when there was opportunities too early. So he says, what, screw it, I'm going to go get mine. I'm going to score early, and then we'll worry about everyone else finding their rhythm. But if I'm, he's their best player. So if he's going to go at 15 in the first quarter, I don't think it's like a bad thing.
No, not at all. I feel like it's important how teams start in the NBA.
Yeah.
I have no idea if there's stats or anything that backs it up, but from my sort of experience watching, a poor start can really sort of set you back a little bit. And why not sort of ride this elite scorer individual player to a 12-2 start to a game, or hop out quick to 8-0 start or something. That's huge. And the Blazers are right there in the playoff spot now.
Well, let's talk about that. They play a huge game. Denver Tuesday. It's become bigger for the Nuggets, I think, than it is for the Blazers. And let me tell you why. I assume you agree, but what from my looking at it. So the Blazers are tied right now. They're tied, but technically the Blazers, there is no way, even if they lose tonight, if the two teams were to end up with the same, or tomorrow night, Tuesday night, if the Nuggets win, the Blazers are still going to end up with the tiebreaker, because if they end up with the same record, there's no math that would allow for the Blazers to have a worse conference record or a worse division record. Conceivably, they could have the same division record, but the Blazers would still end up with a better conference record, which is the third-tier tiebreaker after head-to-head and after division record for division foes. So it's kind of a lot of in the weeds a little bit, but there's no scenario in which the Blazers can end up tied with the Nuggets where they're not going to have the tiebreaker. So the Nuggets absolutely have to win on Tuesday, I think, to have a chance, because not only the tiebreaker stuff, but the Nuggets have a 4-game road trip, and they close on a back-to-back at Dallas, at OKC, and OKC might still be playing for seeding at the time, and the Blazers have 2 road games left. They're basically at the Moda Center for, I think they're 7 of the last 9 at home still to close it out. I mean, they're chilling.
Yeah, all of a sudden it looks like the sort of run-in really fancies the Blazers here, based on everything that you've just explained to us. Look at the strength of schedules. It really looks like the Blazers are favored at this point on. And that the Nuggets had this sort of spot, I won't say locked up, but the spot was theirs for such a long time that it seems like the pressure, if that's a thing that NBA players deal with, also lays with them.
Yeah. I mean...
So Blazer got to play well, and sort of fortune lies in their hands. They got to love the situation they're in, even after the sort of rocky, rough start to the season.
Yeah, I mean, they probably don't want to end up. They probably didn't want to end up in 8th, but considering where they were in February, 10 games under 500, and okay, heading into the All-Star break, the Blazers were closer to 13th than they were to 8th. Think about that.
That's what I'm saying. It was a rough start to the season. They have to be pleased with how their form has sort of come together here a little bit. And it's a great experience for the young team still to get to the playoffs. So I know I want them to make it the playoffs at this point, and I'm sure the Blazers faithful feel the same way. Yeah,
I mean, even the people who are rooting for them to tank at this point, with 7 games remaining in the season, how could you possibly not want them to make the playoffs? They're not going to. The draft pick isn't going to be that good. You might as well let them. Playoffs are kind of fun.
Playoffs are great.
Play the Warriors. Give it. Get a shot at history. Shock the world, or end up with a draft pick that's 2 spots worse than it would have been.
Yeah, I think that could be a really fun series, I mean, we could, depending on how everyone's feeling and fit and everything, we could, nick a game from them.
Yeah, what if Steph Curry misses the flight? What if Steph Curry misses the flight? What if Kevin Durant thinks that the game is in Memphis or something and just goes to the wrong city?
Yeah, what if they don't get their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Dude, I know when you read that peanut butter and jelly sandwich article that you ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Everyone loves PB&Js, man. I mean, come on.
Dude, I immediately, I read that in the morning. It was like about 8 a.m. and by 9:15 I was eating PB&J.
But I saw the image that accompanied the article was just like a layout of different styled PB&Js, and I ate one. I didn't even have to read it. I just saw a picture of PB&J, and I was like, ooh, that sounds good.
It's funny that in that article there's a section where and then I want to make one more point about the Nuggets, but in that article, it's on ESPN, written by Baxter Holmes of ESPN.com, and it's a long piece. It's a long form on peanut butter jelly sandwich craze in the NBA. I imagine if you listen to this podcast, you know that article, so I won't go too far into it. But he mentions that Damian Lillard had his peanut butter and jelly toasted in some away arena, and then he's like, now we need to do it like this. It strikes me, and maybe I'll ask him, had Dame never had a toasted PB&J before?
I mean, I don't know, and all I have to say about that is that's a travesty, and at least we can sort of rest happily that he's found the light,
By age 27, he figured out that the toasted PB&J was the way to go.
Hey, there's still good things to come, even as you reach your late 20s.
True. Even if, no matter how many millions you have, life has little pleasures.
Exactly. Keep on keeping on.
Seriously. Okay, but back to the Nuggets real quick before I forget this point. So basically, I think their their playoff hopes really took a dash when they lost by 25 at home to the New Orleans Pelicans. Wah, wah, wah.
That was just the other night, right?
Yeah, that was Sunday night. Sunday night in Denver, setting up with this huge game to sort of take control against Portland on Tuesday. And now the game has kind of lost its luster. It has so much less importance now that the Nuggets lost that game. They could have really been in control up a game and a half and with an outside chance of controlling the conference tiebreaker if they won out or won the right number of games, but it ain't gonna happen. Regardless, for them, they're not gonna get the tiebreaker. They're gonna have to beat the Blazers just straight up record wise. But I guess before that game, Damian Lillard sent a text message to Tim Frazier, his close friend, and Anthony Davis, who I guess Dame is friends with, and has previously said that it's the player he'd most like to play with in the league. He once said that on a Twitter Q&A.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, it was like a Twitter Q&A, and it was like, what player would you most like to play with? And he said Anthony Davis, and I was like, that is way too honest of an answer. I was like, you should have said CJ McCollum, dude. You should have said, like, Myers Leonard. Like, that was...
Yusuf Nurkic.
Yeah, right? Like, no, even at the time, Nurkic would have been a problem. It was like,
Right,
whatever.
Another young player on a different team.
Yeah, Will Barton or something. It was like, I was like, oh, Dame, don't do that. That was like my immediate thought. I was like, don't do that. Like, that's just in the age of digital content that we're in, like the headline, like Damian Lillard wants to play with Anthony Davis is like not a good headline, even if you both just signed 5-year max contracts in your respective cities. But I guess he texted them before the game and said, we need y'all to win this. And then the Nuggets and AD and Frazier both text back, we got you. And then the Pelicans went out and destroyed the Nuggets. So assist to Dame, I guess, working around the clock to get his Blazers in the playoffs. More hilariously than that,
Dame dropping dimes, man.
Yeah, dropping dimes. But more funnier than that is that Tim Frazier went on Instagram and Twitter and posted pictures that said "You're welcome," tagging Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. And it's like. It's funny because the Pelicans are still technically in the hunt. I think they have to win out. I think they have to win out and get a little bit of help, but they're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs with 7 games left. And Tim Frazier is like sending very public messages to his boys. Like the text message is one thing. Who cares? Like even if you tell a reporter about it, that's not that big of a deal. But the public thing on Instagram to say you're welcome is, I thought that was a significant moment in sort of the stupid social media world of the NBA.
Yeah, I guess I can easily cast that aside as just sort of like banter, Like they obviously know that even without text from Dame, they would know that the Trailblazers are in the hunt for that spot, and that it would affect their potential sort of to enter the playoffs. The Blazers, that is. So,
yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't make much of that. It is kind of funny though, and probably PR ill-advised.
Oh man, I can't.
From whoever responsible.
I can't imagine the like conversation you have to be like, "Hey Tim, we're kind of still in the playoff race, so maybe don't act like our season is over and we're just playing spoiler." Tim's been balling though, absolutely balling. He's averaging like 18 assists per 36 over his last 10 games or so.
Yeah, he's a solid player. I've had to watch like several like really solid performances from him to sort of convince me that I guess he's an NBA player. Maybe it's just like I'm biased by seeing his size and stature or something, but that seems to be sort of a disappearing fad. Obsession with sort of height. We have Isaiah Thomas in the league. Yogi Ferrell got himself a contract. There's tons of shorter sort of guys.
Yeah, I mean the most dominant player in the NBA the last 2 years is 6'3".
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess it was a little bias on my part, and also just not getting a chance to see him play very much in Portland. But I have watched the Pelicans a number of times this season, and yeah, Tiny Tim Frazier, man, he's a player.
Yeah, I think he kind of reminds me of how like JJ Barea just annihilates teams when he plays with Dirk Nowitzki and is like pretty normal when he plays otherwise. So, like he's not. He's just like a six. And like fit. Tim Frazier, when he plays with Anthony Davis, is lethal in the pick and roll. You know, he's fast. He can get into the paint, and he has a really sort of pick and pop, pick and roll, dynamic big man that he can play off of. And that 1-2 punch, when he plays with AD, he's been really, really good. When he plays with Alexis Ajinça, he hasn't been as good, or Ajinça, he hasn't been as good.
Yeah. Anthony Davis helps.
Yeah,
even the Blazers get into the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks, AD. I didn't ask Dame if he sent him a thank you. I imagine he did. When you walk into an NBA locker room after a game, every single person is glued to their phone. It's their modern, it's millennials. They're just like, you get off work and you pick up your phone, you see who texted you see who won the game, you see what's on Instagram, whatever.
Yeah, he had to say something, right?
Yeah, so I'm sure I'm sure he was like, yes, I appreciate you. So yeah, I think we both think that the Blazers are now in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. If you're into the nerds, 538, the statistical projection company that does things like this, sports, and also things that are much more important than sports. They have the Blazers at 83% to make the playoffs and project them to go 40-42 on the year.
That's good.
Yeah, I think 83%. That's probably. I mean, I don't put a percentage on it, but yeah, sure.
That seems like I would, if I was just gonna pull a stat out just out of nowhere, I'd probably say something like that.
Okay, yeah.
I would say that I'm fairly confident that the Blazers are now going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, if they beat
without saying 100%.
If they beat the Nuggets on Tuesday, that's all she wrote. That would give them a two game cushion with a bunch of home games left. So, yeah, and there's an outside chance that some of the good teams the Blazers play down the stretch, including the Houston Rockets on Thursday, won't have a ton to play for. They'll be locked into seeds, and so they'll be cold chilling.
Yep, I'm looking at the schedule now. Houston follows the Denver game. Phoenix at Minnesota, at Utah, versus Minnesota, versus
Isn't
Utah.
That a crazy
that's
stretch?
Kind of a funny little one. Yeah, I didn't notice that before.
Well, it's because of that Minnesota game is a reschedule on Monday night,
right,
because of the Disney on Ice affair.
Right. The slippery court. The mystery of the slippery court.
Hey, that was cool for me. I got a night off in Minneapolis, and it was like 65 degrees. It was great.
Yeah, I bet you was hyped on that, man.
Oh yeah, we have mutual friends who live there and in that fine city. Yeah. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm not complaining. I'm kind of complaining though, because now they play there on the night of the NCAA championship, and my beloved North Carolina Tar Heels, knock on wood, may be playing in that game. So, that's life. Hey.
Yeah, you got a job to do.
Yeah, they pay me to watch NBA games. I'll go do it. That's fine. Yeah. So after that little run in Minnesota, Utah, that sort of doubleheader sort of thing. They play San Antonio, and Spurs are likely to be resting some players. Then this is just sort of they're 3 games back of the Warriors. I don't think they're going to chase for that number 1 seed. They're just going to finish 7th and do what they do.
Yep. And final game of the season is popular conversation topic for us today: the New Orleans Pelicans.
Oh yeah, all we're doing is talking about the Pelicans. Go Pellies. Who knows? There's a chance. I think the playoff seeding will come down to the last couple games, but I'm not sure that game will matter at all for the Blazers. But what it might matter for is they might be playing to finish 500, which I guarantee they want to do.
Yeah, that just looks nicer than not doing that.
Yeah. I don't think I think they're more like they've been playing so well. I'm not going to count them out. They've been beating the bad teams, which they had a little bit of trouble doing in the middle of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and Minnesota, they look like their season's done. So those could be easy wins. Utah is really pushing though. Those games against the Jazz are going to be tough because the Jazz have a chance to finish as high as 4th if they really if things work in their favor, and they could drop all the way to 6th. I don't think they could go to 7th, but they could drop all the way to 6th So the Jazz have a lot to play for. Absolutely. So
yeah, they'll be tough. Especially, Rudy Gobert made some comments the other day where he seemed to be calling out some of his teammates on effort levels. So it feels like
wasn't he just calling out Joe Johnson? Wasn't he just saying Joe Johnson only cares about stats?
I mean, maybe George Hill. Is what I've heard as well. I don't watch a ton of the Jazz. I think the Jazz are a great team. I've been high on them since before the season even started.
Yeah,
I've been vindicated in that sense. That feels nice. But yeah, I've heard some rumblings that maybe George Hill has not been giving that same level of effort defensively that he's known for. He can be, and
he was balling at the beginning of the year.
Perimeter defender. But I guess the sort of scuttlebutt is that maybe he's looking for that contract. Maybe wants to really be paid. I would think you'd work harder on defense, but who knows? Maybe he's just doing a superstar thing. But either way, Gobert's comments sort of indicate that all is not perfectly well. So you would think that the Jazz are taking things very seriously right now, and they're already a elite defense. So those will be tough games.
The journalist side of me says, hell yes, Rudy Gobert called out his teammates, and the sort of pragmatic fan, basketball junkie inside of me goes, dude, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Shut up. Why would you say this? Why would you talk? Why would you make this? Why would you want this to be a headline with 10 games to go?
And I think that's just his personality.
Me too, dude.
He's him being a sort of a firebrand personality on Twitter and whatnot, or before he was elite, and now he is.
He's been a great follow on social media for 3 years, and this is the first year that I think he's in the conversation for best big man in the NBA. And I'll say it, I think he's up there.
Yeah, he's a great player. There's
he's
no
so good, so good. He's efficient on offense now in a way that he never was before. He can score in a lot of ways, and he knows how to be tall, and he's just been an elite defender, and he still is.
Yeah. Either way, though, not all is not well in Salt Lake City, even though their team is in great shape in the playoffs. But
they got waxed though those comments. I think came after they lost to the Clippers, and they got waxed by the Clippers. That was.
Oh yeah.
And nobody likes losing to the Clippers.
No, everyone hates the Clippers.
America's least favorite team.
Many times.
America's least favorite team, the Clippers.
Yeah, I'm not even sure the Clippers like the Clippers, man.
They don't, dude. The Clippers do not like the Clippers. That might be their biggest problem.
Anyone on that team likes one another.
That might be their biggest problem is that the Clippers hate the Clippers.
Yeah.
Okay. Other topics we want to get to. Yusuf Nurkic still a cult hero, but I think Nurk's presence on the floor has really opened things up and really helped for the development of one Noah Vonleh. Charles, has Noah surprised you in these last 3 weeks or so?
He has, and I was not ready to close the book on him, but I was ready to sort of bring sort of criticisms out into the ether about him, and probably more pointedly about the Blazers as an organization, their ability to develop talent. I viewed Vonleh as one player amongst some others, which I don't have to talk about now, as a player who's maybe had stunted his development in some sense, and maybe that's still the case. I don't know, but you're right that Nurkic offered up a greater opportunity for him to get out on the court and maybe fit in a little better in terms of the balance and harmony of the lineups that he's in.
Yeah, just more offense. More offense seems to help Noah because playing with Mason, although he was fine with, and Mason's a good passer or whatever, just having another threat out there seems to let Noah be more aggressive because, there's at least one more player you have to account for that can really score on the Blazers, in the Blazers starting group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's good balance for Noah, and he's been really good. So
yeah.
So I will not criticize sort of his game or his development thus far because these last 20 games, he's been really great. His energy has always been there. I feel like I've never had any qualms with that. He
was more hesitant. He wasn't aggressive.
Yeah.
He was just going out there to not make mistakes. And we were talking about how good he's been. He's he's averaging 8 and 6, but that is for him to average 8 and 6 and look like he's being assertive is a huge step forward in his game.
Yeah. I mean, look, those aren't sort of blow you away numbers, but I wasn't sure that the guy was going to completely stick around in the league, and those type of numbers and how he's performing recently makes it look like he can absolutely be a serviceable role player in the NBA, and an important part for the Blazers going forward. He's so long that he is interesting, sort of defensively for his versatility.
Yeah, I mean he's been playing center.
Yeah, he moves laterally pretty well, and he's got real long arms. The guy's always been good at sort of boxing out, battling for rebounds. Um, so yeah, I'm really pleased with Noah actually, and I hope the sort of team is also because it's a better fit for him now. So go Vonleh.
Nice. I think one of the interesting things uh, about the Noah acquisition is when they got him. He was 19. He had basically played. Not he had basically lost his rookie season. Hadn't played much. And you it's hard for you. It can be difficult to develop for big guys behind the scenes. But the knock on Noah Vonleh was that he didn't pick up stuff super quick. That was kind of the criticism that the Hornets had, particularly Steve Clifford, is that he just didn't pick up defensive concepts super quick. So I think there has been a learning curve for him in the league. I mean, coming in at 19 and being asked to do all the things you're supposed to do as a big man in sort of pick and roll decision making, particularly, can be tough. And I think in now 2,000 minutes into his Blazer career as a starter and playing against really good players every night and knowing sort of when he's going to play and who he's going to face and like that kind of sort of straightforward matchup approach, I think that's really helped him because he says, I got 7 minutes to guard, say take the Lakers game on Sunday. I got 7 minutes to start the game to guard Julius Randle, and that fool is going to go left every single time. So he can just lock in on that scouting report. And I think that's helped him. And then sort of that comfort has translated on offense where he just understands where to space better. He's been working the baseline and sort of working that 18-foot and in range more. He's probably dunked more in the last, like thrown down driving dunks more in the last 2 weeks than he has in his entire career.
He's had some filthy dunks.
He's
got such long arms. He gets up really quick too if he's sort of banging in and around the paint. These are not the dunks that you're talking about where you take a dribble just like he had the other night. But right when he's underneath the paint, he'll just sort of do a little head fake or so, and then just leap so quickly and slam it home where no one can even block it.
And he has huge hands, so he can finish with one hand.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah. So, it's funny the comment you said about Steve Clifford maybe finding that he's a bit slow learner in that regard. Maybe part of that is also just the confidence levels that you're talking about. Worrying about making a mistake, it just prevents you from actually playing basketball. So maybe he was slow to pick up on some things, but also maybe when he got on the court, he didn't have the confidence or the sort of feeling, the comfort level to really play his game and do the right things. And when you're trying not to make mistakes, you're not going to do that many things well.
I know.
In almost any walk of life, not just basketball.
Totally. And when you feel like, oh, I blew it, I screwed this up, now I'm going to get yanked. Like,
there goes my minutes for the game or for this week or something like
exactly. That. You can, you won't, it's like, oh, I got my 7 minutes for the week and now I'm back to the bench because I blew this defensive assignment or I didn't set the right screen. And I know there has been times where in execution stuff that Noah has missed screens and Terry Stotts has held his tongue. There's a couple moments to start games where they'll call a play and Noah will go to the wrong spot and Terry will just go sit back down. He'll just be standing up and nope and just sit back down and like not yell at him. So there's definitely been some patience exercise with him. And I wrote about this last week in my column Good, Bad, Nerdy about Noah works with like every single assistant coach. Like that dude, he is committed to it. He'll spend an hour or 25 minutes out on the court, actually working, maybe an hour total, but 25 minutes out on the court working before a game starts with John McCullough and Jim Moran, two of the Blazers assistants. And then and another assistant guy, Barksdale, I forget his first name, but he's a video guy behind the scenes. And then he'll go sit down and look at film for 35 minutes with another Blazers assistant coach, and then he'll go, get a quick weightlifting session in with the H&P guys right before the game starts. He's one of those dudes who's like before the game start has a full sweat, and
you're like, what is this guy been doing?
He used to do the pregame 2-on-2 with the scrubs, like the guys who don't play. Scrubs is kind of a mean word, but the guys who, the end of the bench guys, Pat Connaughton, Jake Layman, guys who aren't going to play regular minutes. And when Noah started to pick up more minutes and actually play in the fourth quarter, which has been a big development, actually getting real fourth quarter minutes, even playing down the stretch in some games, like in important close games. Think Miami and Milwaukee. And the Blazers had to tell him that he's not allowed to play 2-on-2 before the games because he's going to play 27, 28 minutes a night, and they can't, he can't waste that energy at 4 in the afternoon playing 2-on-2 against Pat Connaughton.
Yeah, you're gonna have to save those for after practice someday or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
He's a player now, Noah.
Exactly. The way NBA practices work is at this time of the year, like guys who regularly play, they don't do anything in practice. Mm-hmm. They'll lift some weights, they'll do some shooting drills, and that's it.
Right.
And it's
like they're not playing 5-on-5 scrimmages.
No way. But like, the guys who don't play or the guys who are still developing, they'll get work in. They'll sweat. They'll do skill work. They'll play 2-on-2, or the Blazers do this like 1-on-1 running full court drill, which I really like. Where you just like get the ball and you have X number of dribbles to go to the other rim, and if you score, you get it and get to run the other way, and somebody subs in, and if you don't, you're on defense, blah blah blah. But they'll do a full court 1-on-1 for 45 minutes after practice. But like Noah has finally at long last, he's made it to the point where he doesn't have to. He gets the luxury of being treated like a rotation guy, where they're like, yeah, no, you're cool, you've done your work, you do your work in the games, you don't have to do your work in the practice.
Mm-hmm.
So good for Noah is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for him. I am, and he's an Indiana boy. I'm always looking out for the Indiana guys. Well, he played at Indiana. He's not actually from.
No,
Indiana.
He's from outside of Boston.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah,
but pretty much every single person on the Blazers bench is from the Boston area.
Really? Who else? Yeah, Connaughton.
Pat Connaughton, Jake Layman, Shabazz Napier is from the city of Boston. He always gives those guys credit. He's like, yeah, y'all try to claim on Boston. You're not from anywhere. You're from Connecticut.
Yeah.
And Noah.
That goes.
And Noah. He's from there.
Okay.
They're all. I think they all played AAU, at least against each other a little bit in AAU. And Luis Montero, before he was cut, was actually from. He had gone to high school in the Boston area after he moved from the Dominican Republic.
Hoops hotbed. Beantown.
Beantown, baby.
Didn't know about it.
Yeah, there you go. The real hoops hotbed is Los Angeles. Literally every good NBA player's from there.
Yeah.
I feel like Los Angeles versus the rest of the country would be a pretty good like all-star format.
Yeah, there was a stretch where the DMV here where I am was putting out lots of great players. But no, you're exactly right that LA, SoCal, lots of players down there.
Yeah, seriously. James Harden and Russell Westbrook, maybe the two MVPs, both from the area.
Yeah, they used to play like the same like Boys and Girls Club or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't they say that? That's crazy.
That would have been a heck of a fourth grade game, huh?
Oh my gosh. Heck of a recess after school program hooping.
I know. Russell Westbrook always says I wasn't very good. There's this whole thing about how Russell wasn't very good because he was like a late bloomer. It's like, but he did end up going to UCLA, so at some point he was pretty good.
Yeah, I guess the stories say that it was like his senior year though when he finally got.
When he took off. I know he was a late recruiter,
late.
But like, come on now.
And he's not a huge guy. He's obviously a freak physically, but he's not this massive guy. So I think he grew some late in his high school career and then took off a little bit. I can actually sort of see, like, I can imagine the younger version of Russell Westbrook, like, not being very good. Like, I really can. Of not being a very skilled player, maybe of not even being, like, an especially intelligent player, but just being, like, a hard worker, a great athlete, and then just working so hard on everything else that now he's absolutely world class. Yeah.
You think James Harden wins MVP?
I don't even know. I guess so. But I don't really think too much about that, I guess. There's
what's pretty whack is that this year there's 4 guys who could easily win MVP. I mean, maybe if you think the Cavs being bad in March is a big deal, and maybe you knock LeBron off there, but you're an idiot if you do that. But, Kawhi and LeBron and Harden and Westbrook have all been sensational. Obviously, the numbers that Westbrook and Harden are putting up are just bonkers. Just absolutely... best statistical seasons we've seen in terms of individuals since the 60s. But like, and people say the MVP doesn't matter, and I kind of feel you on that. I do not have an MVP vote. Still salty about that. If I get one, I'm going to go hard on this podcast. But
I'll start campaigning for you, lobbying for you, man. Just tell me who I need to reach out to.
Okay, I'll tell you offline.
Adam Silver.
No, I'll give you a direct email address, and you can complain that I deserve it. No, but I don't think it matters really, but I do think in 8 years when you look back, you're not going to say who finished third in the MVP voting, who finished fourth. You're going to say who won MVP. Oh yeah, that was the James Harden MVP year. Yeah, he was so good. So like legacy wise, that stuff really matters. But in like the like moment, like at the end of this season, you'll say like, oh, Westbrook finished second in MVP voting. That makes sense because Harden had such a great year. But then it kind of gets lost in the ether. His excellence gets lost in the ether, and I think that's a bummer.
Yeah, and I feel like to sort of further speak to that point, the All NBA teams sort of get lost in that also, and it's maybe like the distinction between the All-Stars, selected All-Stars, and then sort of nominated All NBA players. I feel like that's sort of a confusing sort of distinction, and it's hard to sort of hierarchize one over the other, even though clearly you would do the latter just because there's fewer players, but...
Right, but the All-NBA is only voted on by the media, so there's some real...
different voting criteria, you're right.
There's some real bias involved. DeMarcus Cousins was the best center in the NBA last year, probably, and he did not make first-team All-NBA because he's a jerk, and guys voted DeAndre over him.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But I don't know. It's probably hard to do away with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even open it up to other parties, and the biases will still be
exactly. It just creates a different set of biases. I would like to see coaching staffs at least somewhat involved in it because I think those guys know. A lot of voters who have a vote in this stuff, they'll go to coaches for the teams they cover and say, "Hey, I have an All NBA vote. Who do you like in these spots?"
Right.
But
suggestion
I don't think every voter does that. I know the voters I know of do certainly, take that vote very seriously and go ask people who know. But like, even then that has biases. Say like, how about if it turns out that Quinn Snyder hates Marc Gasol?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you don't know. You don't always have control over sort of these things as well. You're sort of understanding of them.
Yeah.
So that's tough. I mean, my take on like the MVP stuff, it definitely matters and it's a big deal. Just like personally, I'm not super interested in it.
Yeah. Okay. That's
like, okay, who gets the MVP or who has the better case? I guess I don't spend too much time thinking about that, and I guess I prefer to think in sort of like tiers or sort of groupings of really good players that I think are effective and fun to watch.
Yeah.
But I don't waste much brain time on it.
Neither do I. I don't read the debates. I don't weigh in. If people ask me in those like, hey, would you be willing to do a Q&A about who wins MVP? I'm like, that's not really for me.
Sure.
It's like I've had a couple people reach out and do like a blind ballot so they can say like, here's where the voting stands as of now. And I'll be like, they'll be like, can you give me 5 names? And I'm like, no, I'll give you the 4 names that everyone is throwing out there. How about that?
Yeah. And then maybe only the only interesting one of the bunch would be the 5th that you chose because the other 4 are so clearly above the others.
Yeah, and I guess the 5th is Steph Curry. It would have been Kevin Durant until he got hurt, but I guess the 5th is Steph Curry.
I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, he's excellent, so.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 nights ago, Patrick Beverley said that it was a quote-unquote disgrace that NBA teams were resting players. As an aside, Nene has rested 6 games this season for the Houston Rockets. I wish Pat Bev would have known about that. I'm sure he just let that slip his mind. But are you? And I think this debate's kind of over down the stretch, but it has been sort of part of the NBA second half of the season. The last 20 games, this always comes up. Are you? Where do you stand? Like, does it bother you? What do you think? Is there a solution? What do you do with NBA players resting?
There's not an easy solution, and even Adam Silver has sort of spoken to this exactly. That there is no simple solution. Popovich has had comments also recently that suggest that you cannot satisfy all parties here. So striking the balance between, and of course this can't sort of be done completely publicly because you run the risk of sort of upsetting stakeholders. But there needs to be some sort of analysis of sort of weighted analysis, I think, of who you're going to sort of privilege in this situation. The fans, the TV broadcasters.
Right, like is resting on a national TV game worse than resting on a whatever game?
Yeah, I mean, and that's like, LeBron made all these comments. I guess everything has to be about LeBron.
It does, and that literally was the reason why it came up, is because LeBron rested on a national TV game.
Yeah. And it's not even, like, to rebut LeBron, it's not even about you, man. Like, first of all, you are a star, and what you do does matter, and everyone puts you under a microscope. That's all true, but it's because that was a nationally televised game, and ABC.
It was an ABC game.
Was sending memos to the NBA, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the NBA.
Yeah, so
ABC was mad, and so then the NBA immediately sent a message to David Griffin, the Cavs GM, and were like, "Hey, what the heck?"
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: if you don't allow guys to rest, if you don't allow them to just rest, and you say, "Hey, he's getting a night off for rest," then you just get did not play sore knee, did not play sore back.
Right, which seems
you just encourage teams to lie about injuries.
Also, exactly.
Yeah, and listen, the Spurs Manu Ginobili's playing at 39 years old. Duncan played in a ton of minutes in his 20s when he was a superstar. And as he got older, they cut his minutes back. They've let him rest games. They were very methodical in the way they played him. He played at a extremely high level until about age 40, right? Like, the Spurs were probably out in front of this rest thing. That's like probably one of their advantages that they've had is understanding rest, understanding pacing of the season, understanding how important it is. Popovich has actually said that the two guys he's most worried about heading into the playoffs in terms of their minutes are Patty Mills and Danny Green. It's not always old people. It's resting the key parts of what you do and not running up minutes for everybody. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do. I think it's a problem mostly for the fans, the paying customer.
Yeah, I'm with you right there, but it's like, the NBA will come out and sort of say this, that like, oh, like little Timmy and his dad Tommy like wanted to go see LeBron.
Timmy and Tommy is a terrible. If your name's Tommy, don't name your son Timmy.
And and now they don't get to see him because they're resting, and LeBron is just this big wussy. But it's like, from the timing which we just spoke on, the NBA doesn't care that much about the fan.
Oh, they don't give a crap.
What they're really worried about is the big TV broadcasting numbers, Exactly. So that's dishonest on their part.
Agreed. And also, go ahead.
No, you finish your thought, actually.
The solution to it is that the NBA says, okay, this Warriors-Cavs game on a Saturday night is absolutely marquee. Let's make sure it's not the second night of a back-to-back or a long road trip for anybody.
Yeah, the real onus lies with the NBA schedulers. It's their problem. It's absolutely their problem. And look, there actually is an easy solution, and it's shorten the season.
Never going to happen.
If it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But that is an easy solution.
Yeah.
You can literally, I was doing some math the other day. So here's my plan. I'm going to do my quick pitch real quick.
Ooh, I can't wait.
We get rid of the conferences. Those have to go just because they're kind of silly. But that's not essential to sort of my plan here. But the NBA, they expand actually. They add Seattle team and they add another team. That brings the league total.
How about Kansas City, Missouri?
Let's do it. Seattle and Kansas City. Seattle, Supersonics ball returns to Seattle. PNW fans are overjoyed. And Midwest fans who get rabid about all sorts of sports like soccer even are super hyped on the Kansas City team also. So now we got 32 teams in the league.
Uh-huh.
Each team plays every other team 2 times, home and away. That's 31 games home, 31 games away. That's a 62-game season. That seems reasonable.
Yeah, that's probably perfect, honestly.
You spread it out over the exact same time frame, and the average is I did the math, the average between games is 2.75 days. You can literally completely do away with back-to-backs.
So you play 3 games a week, a little less.
Yeah, back-to-backs are no longer a thing. And that the problem solved, except for maybe money-grubbing owners who want to racket up the ticket sales.
Yeah, I'm going to say those...
More importantly, want to ratchet up their TV broadcasting cuts.
Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, that's probably a pretty reasonable solution. But I agree
it's unlikely.
Yeah,
they would do that, but that's my solution.
It's so hard to convince the billionaires to give up 10 home games or something like that, or even 4 home games. Those are moneymakers, man. The league has to... I've talked to someone who works in the league about this. I'll call him an Eastern Conference executive because that's the best way to describe them without saying too much. But basically, the league has to tell you what they get gate per night. So that's ticket sales. How many heads come in, actual scanned tickets. That information becomes sort of public in the BRA. But what they don't have to tell you or what they don't have to release publicly is the per capita numbers. So that's when you come in with your crew and you guys buy a t-shirt and dinner and beers. And so then now each person in your 4-person group, you've spent total in your 4-person group, I don't know, $400 between all the beers and the t-shirts and the ticket sales. So that's about $100 per capita. That would mean that at a Blazer game with 20,000 people, say it's a little bit under that, say it's, for easy math, $100. That's $200,000 a night. Mm-hmm. So if you're giving away 5 games, that's $1 million. That's
right.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to give away $1 million. I mean, it's probably a little less than that at a Blazer game, but like in New York City, where people work 9 to 5s and take this, and go right there after work and eat their real life dinner and have a real life cocktail in those extremely expensive seats, that's a $1,500 seat plus, $100 worth of dinner. They're talking $1,600 per head, in some situations. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And that's why they won't give it away, because it's not just the TV, but it's just the sneaky way that they make a bunch of money on just any random crappy regular season game. And not every market sells out, but in the markets that do, that's a lot of money to give away. Blazers Bucks on a Tuesday night last week was packed. That's a unique experience, but even in the places where it's not like that, they're sacrificing a lot of cash. So it's never going to happen, although it needs to, because the last 20 games of the year, even with the Blazers and Nuggets in a really fun race for the 8th seed. Admittedly fun. These last 7 games, both teams are really playing for something, and it makes this random March game between 2 sub-500 teams meaningful and exciting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who gets the 8th seed in the West, really. Mm-hmm. In the big picture of the season, they could shorten it up and just have given it to the Nuggets a month ago and have a pretty damn good playoffs, right?
Absolutely. And I guess it just depends on like how the power dynamics lie within the NBA. Obviously, most of it is with the sort of board of owners or whatever.
Yeah.
Like how much leverage can the TV networks push? These deals get bigger and bigger. Do they have enough to sort of use that as sort of bargaining chips?
Right.
Like we can't deal with this resting players. Like our internal sort of projections seem like shortening the season is the best way to address this solution. Like this is what we want, like how strong is their bargaining power? I don't really know how the dynamics work. So, but I generally agree with you that it's highly unlikely that they would dramatically shorten the season, even though that seems like a great solution to me.
Every smart mind thinks that they should. I don't think basketball purists within the league are really in favor of that. Talking to particularly coaches, like older heads, they don't. Most coaches I've heard of are not a fan of that, but they are a fan of stretching the season out and getting rid of back-to-backs. No doubt about it. It's going to make for some long road trips for guys, a long time away from home with not playing many games. Like after the All-Star break, that Blazers were gone for 8 days or almost 9 days with travel. They played 3 games. So there might be a lot of sort of those long time away from home with not a lot of playing, which I don't think the guys will love, but hey, that's what you're going to get. It's called rest.
Yeah, it's smart. The science proves it. It's sound. NBA is grueling on the body.
It's grueling on my body, and I don't even do anything. I'm sore from my Delta flight I took today.
Dang, man.
No, I'm not actually. I mean, I'm.
You feel great.
Stop lying. To steal an NBA phrase, best shape of my life.
It took you a while, work through the season and everything.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm kind of like Yusuf Nurkic. I showed up a little fat. I wasn't really ready to get it going, but by March, whoo boy, ready to ride. Let's do it.
Ready for the playoffs.
Exactly. My playoffs might not be as long as others. I don't have to play into June. I'll be vacationing. And going to lots of draft workouts because the Blazers have 3 picks, which
That's unusual.
It is going to be a busy end of May and June for the old draft workout world. All right, Charles, let's get out of here. Guys, thanks for listening. If you are looking for this podcast and maybe you just discovered it randomly for the first time, we're available on iTunes, also Stitcher, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Just search My Friend Chuck. We'd love for you to leave us a review on iTunes. Let us know what you think. Give us a rating. We really appreciate it. We love doing it, and we love hearing from you guys. If you're looking for Charles, he's on the internet at MC Hellenarls on Twitter and various other places. You can find me at Mike G. Rich on Twitter and also read all my stuff and all my colleagues' work at OregonLive.com/Blazers. I've written about all types of things. Noah Vonleh, Yusuf Nurkic, and a game against the Nuggets. A lead into that one. So OregonLive.com/Blazers. Check us out. The intro and outro music you hear is from our good friend Petey Green. You can find him on SoundCloud at Petey Green. That's PETYGREEN. Charles, let's do this again soon when the Blazers, after they play a big game and maybe are cruising towards the playoffs. How about it?
Let's do it, man. Bring on the playoffs. Bring on the Warriors.
Oh, my, get out of here.
Upsets.
You're going to be Dikembe Mutombo holding that ball over your head in the lane. I can't wait.
The Warriors stink, man. They're falling apart.
Yeah, they're bad. They're only the best defense in the league since the All-Star break. But hey, I'll crush dreams about upsets later, and we'll talk to you then. Appreciate it, guys. Peace out, Chuck.